The word cult is pretty interesting because people will throw this around and there's a lot of variance with how people define a cult. You have Stephen Hassan's bite model, where if you exercise certain types of control, that makes you a cult. If you have extremist religious ideas, whatever that means, that makes you a cult. Sometimes people just don't like something, so they call something a cult. And I was on a hike last week, and I was sitting on a beach staring at the ocean, and I thought, maybe I'll try my hand at defining what a cult is. And this is what I came up with. When someone's position or status is more important than their desire to tell the truth.
Their family's left in ruins. Tell the truth.
I thought that was a pretty useful definition for what a cult might look like, because when people are so obsessed with maintaining appearances and maintaining the control that they exercise over their followers, they don't really have a lot of intention or desire to tell people the truth. And if this is brought up, it's usually a finger-pointing game, like, oh, you think I'm bad? Well, what about John? He did something worse than me. And then John says, well, how about Diddy? Well, Diddy, he's worse than me. And Diddy's sitting there is like, well, what about Epstein? He's worse than me. And Epstein's sitting there realizing that he's bringing up the caboose of the old morality train. And all of that is to say, in my experience, most people that are sane and normal, whatever normal means to you, will take accountability. They will acknowledge errors or whatever mistakes that they make. They want to try and rectify those. And it takes a specific type of person that wants to just bury or hide behind something. And that often leads me to scratch my head and think, is this person trying harder to maintain appearances than they are trying to tell the truth? And I think that this is a fairly useful definition for what a cult is. We are going to take a look at a video that I think perfectly highlights how Watchtower doesn't take accountability. They don't apologize or clarify, but they try and distract. They try and mislead and point the other finger, like the John to Diddy to Epstein train. And maybe, hopefully, once people are confused and distracted, they won't actually see that they are the ones that are spreading misinformation. So let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and today we are taking a look at a video I'm pretty sure I've covered before. I know at least in pieces or portions of it, but it is being discussed at the midweek meeting for Jehovah's Witnesses, and whenever that comes up, and it's a video that I think is very important and it's very interesting to look at and talk about, why not go and look at it once again? So quickly before we get into it, don't forget to drop a like on the video. I know I keep saying it over and over again. It's just so hackneyed at this point, you're probably just tired of it, but it really does make a massive difference in how the video performs, and that helps it get out to more people and spread the good message. So it's very much appreciated by me, and it does help the cause. With all of that being said, let's look at a whiteboard animation where Watchtower warns people that there might be some tomfoolery going out there in the world with people spreading misinformation.
In today's world, there's a constant flood of information coming at you from just about everywhere. It's good to stay informed. The problem is that not everything you hear or see is true. Some of it is misinformation. Opinions, half-truths, conspiracy theories, and even outright lies dressed up as facts. Misinformation isn't just inaccurate, it can also be dangerous. It can cause people to make bad decisions or to ignore important safety warnings. So how can you protect yourself from misinformation?
It's hard for me to actually think of examples where misinformation could be more dangerous than Watchtower telling people for decades that the God of the universe, this Jehovah dude, has declared and decided that the medical use of blood is against his rules. He doesn't like it, which is strange because everything that we see in the Old Testament, he seems to actually very much enjoy the smell of blood. He likes it, seeing it on doorposts. He likes seeing it on people's earlobes and foreheads and the tips of their little skirts and stuff. He loves blood. He's all about that blood life. And for a modern religion cult to come in and say, well, we've gotten the download, we've gotten, the latest patch notes here, and we found out that God doesn't like the medical use of blood, and so we're not going to allow that anymore. And then to come and turn around and say, well, if you use your own blood in a medical sense, the Bible doesn't actually say anything about that. So go ahead and do it. That is a life and death decision that some guys in New York made. They said, we are going to spread the truth. And it turns out that that truth was plain as day misinformation. They had misinformed people about what God thought about using your own blood in medical situations, and so they reversed it. Watchtower is telling people the dangers of misinformation, but if you look through their history, you don't need them to tell it to you. You can just see it for yourself. And what you'll see is that tens of thousands of people died because Watchtower misinformed them about what God wanted for their medical use of blood in order to maintain their loyalty to him. So Watchtower should be very familiar with just how dangerous misinformation is.
At Job 12:11, the Bible says that we should test out words, as the tongue tastes food. When you taste something new, you can spit it out if it's bad, before you swallow it. In the same way, before you believe a story or repeat it to others, you should put it to the test. Here are 2 ways you can do that. Test number 1. Consider the source of the information. Do you know where the information originally came from? Don't be fooled by appearances. An online post may look official, but behind the scenes, the author may just be repeating rumors or spreading his own opinions. And with something called deep fake technology, dishonest people can even do things like swap the faces and voices in a video to create a completely fake report. So even if a story is widely repeated, follow the Bible's advice of 1 Thessalonians 5:21 and make sure of all things.
Man, deep fakes. How crazy would that be? It would be wild to use a deep fake to make something seem a little bit different than the actual reality of the situation. Kind of like this.
I am your doctor.
I'm your lawyer.
Now, I can't be 100% certain. I'm not some sort of a cyber investigator or anything, but this sure looks like AI to me. And I am fully aware that there are doctors who are Jehovah's Witnesses. No one is arguing that point. No one is so stupid that they think that there are 0 doctors living on planet Earth that are Jehovah's Witnesses. That is just a silly thing to think, right? But my question with the I'm your doctor is, will you perform a blood transfusion on me if I need it in an emergency situation? Now, the answer to that question has actually come to Watchtower's doorstep, and they answered it. Even if you're not a doctor, even if you're a nurse, even if you're a veterinarian, and your pet needs a blood transfusion. They have told people that that is not allowed. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that that would be a very important caveat to mention when they say, I'm your doctor, but not every available medical treatment is going to be administered by me, because separate from our doctor-patient relationship is my belief that I have to be obedient to some guys in New York City that told me not to give you blood. I don't want to have a medical professional on my team that has some sort of cuckoo, spacey ideas about God and blood. I don't want any of that crap. I want you to take care of me. I want you to keep me alive at all costs there, bucko. So when they're again, I think this is AI, but when they're using... This is just too funny to me. Sorry, I try not to laugh in the middle of my sentences, but this one just makes me giggle. When they're talking about someone could use deepfake technology. Someone could use deepfake technology to try and mislead people, couldn't they? Now, the other thing that needs to be talked about, I suppose it doesn't need to be talked about, the world would go on without it being mentioned, but I'm going to talk about it, is testing and investigating where these sources are. I encourage, if you are a Jehovah's Witness and you're shaking your fists and you're wagging your finger, furiously typing on your keyboard right now in the comments, hey, congratulations. You made it here. That's pretty cool. Second of all, I highly recommend anytime Watchtower quotes a source or a book to go and verify that. Because when I was a believing Jehovah's Witness, I started doing that. And the results were shocking. I was blown away by how consistent Watchtower was in quoting sources from doctors, from scientists to scholars that completely misrepresented what the person was actually trying to say, or trying to make it seem as if something was a scholarly or scientific consensus, when in actuality there's just some crack jobs out there with a Timu degree in any given field, and they're using these people that are pariahs in their industry as, oh, well, these people, this is the consensus, when it's simply not. So if you want to take Watchtower's advice and check sources, please do that with apostates. Do that with my videos. Check and verify and make sure that I'm not misleading you. But also, check and verify that Watchtower is not misleading you either, because the results might surprise you. And one other suggestion that I just have to give because I can't help myself. When Watchtower was reporting on their Supreme Court victory in Norway, I would recommend going and taking a look at what actually was the ruling versus what Watchtower said. Because, again, I don't think Watchtower was actually giving a complete picture of how everything shaked out. They were trying to make it seem as if this was an overwhelming victory and that free speech and religious freedom was being upheld, when in fact all that happened was religions have a very privileged place in the world, and it's very, very difficult to be so bad at being a religion that you lose your right to practice that religion in any given country. Obviously, there's some outliers here throughout history and the world, even currently. There's just religious freedom isn't something that everyone in the world enjoys. So obviously, there's exceptions to this. But what Watchtower did was they almost, by one vote in the Supreme Court, or maybe it was 2 votes. No, check that as a source for sure. But they were very, 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 very close to actually meeting that insanely high bar. This wasn't an overwhelming, outstanding victory that the entire Supreme Court said, oh, yes, Jehovah's Witnesses are the greatest and we made a mistake. No, this was them shrugging their shoulders and saying, I guess they didn't quite meet that really high bar for not being recognized as a religion in Norway. But again, you don't have to trust me. Do what Watchtower says and verify it for yourself.
Compare what you hear with other sources to verify the information. Test number 2. Consider the purpose of a story. Is it really to present the facts, or to promote just one side of an issue? Some reports spin the news, emphasizing certain details and downplaying others to sway your opinion. Some reports may even be conspiracy theories, claims that certain groups have secretly plotted to cause a tragic event or crisis. The purpose is often to promote prejudice and hatred. Such theories have a way of spreading like wildfire. But they are just that, theories. And sometimes they're based on deliberate lies. So don't be fooled.
Oh yes, conspiracy theories. You got to be careful of those. This is coming from an organization that truly believes that there is a time in the very near future where every single government authority on planet Earth is going to come together in agreement that the real enemy wasn't each other. The real enemy was Jehovah's Witnesses. And they are going to be meeting in situation rooms with pictures of the governing body up on their screens, and guys with guns are going to be hunting down Jehovah's Witnesses because they were so bold as to tell the truth. They have one of the most insane conspiracy theories that they believe is very true. They think that the entire world is designed against them specifically, and that it's all being controlled by a supernatural force. Sorry to break it to you there, Buster, but I think that your entire religion is based on conspiracy theories. Go back and look at the writings of Charles Taze Russell and Joseph Rutherford and tell me that you don't walk away that thinking these guys were nut jobs. Measuring the pyramids of Egypt to arrive at 606 BCE as the date for Jerusalem being destroyed, and that takes you to 1914 because he forgot there was no year zero, so he made a miscalculation and had to retroactively shoehorn that back in? That the entire world is going to be saved by the governing body when they come in as spirit creatures to destroy all of the enemies of God's people, so that way they can throw this dragon Satan into this abyss-like place where he'll be locked for 1,000 years until he's released again on the world's population to try and mislead them again. Also, that way they can be vegetarians and live in communes where snakes don't bite and they eat grass, and grizzly bears only eat berries and they don't have a desire to have fish anymore. It's insane. The Jehovah's Witness belief system is insane. It sounds so much crazier than a conspiracy theory. So comparing, a conspiracy theory like, oh, maybe the world's billionaires are all corrupt and in bed with each other and running a global pedophile ring. That seems not too conspiratorial when you compare that to the Jehovah's Witness belief system.
But before you spend time and effort testing everything you hear, there's an important question you need to ask yourself. Is the story really that important to you? Splashy headlines can make even trivial news items seem important. But if you follow every bit of information that pops up, you just may hit information overload or get stressed out about reports that are more speculation than actual news. If you feel overwhelmed, it may help to turn off some notifications and just search for the information you need when you need it. Of course, even if you're not online, misinformation can spread by word of mouth. Even well-meaning friends may just repeat what they've heard. So whether you read something, hear it from another person, or it's forwarded to you by a friend, remember the words of Proverbs 14:15. The naive person believes every word, but the shrewd one ponders each step. In other words, don't just believe everything you hear without thinking it through. But that doesn't mean we can't trust anything or anyone. If you hear something that makes you anxious or suspicious, go to someone you trust, someone with more experience who can help you evaluate the truth behind it.
So what's Watchtower's answer? To find a bro to trust. Their answer is actually, trust me, bro. Go to someone that you just believe because that's what you've been trained to do. Like an elder. Oh man, I heard this report about something, a CSA case, and didn't look super good. Oh man, I heard Watchtower's head lawyer actually committed a crime and is facing a 6-figure penalty for lying to a court. And the elder will be like, you can't trust everything you hear. Trust me, bro. This is the dumbest conclusion to trying to give people good advice. Okay, guys, you gotta be careful. There's conspiracies and misinformation and clickbait, and it's overwhelming, and propaganda. I agree. All of that is very prevalent in the world. But the answer, the solution to this is your brain. It's not to go to someone that you automatically trust for no reason. It's actually comical. But before I conclude this video, I did want to take a look at because like I said, this was going to be something that is discussed at their midweek meeting, and there were some questions associated with this that would be some time for the audience to give their opinion. So let's just take a brief look at that. So in ancient Israel, false prophets and seers spread dangerous but appealing misinformation. Similarly, those who spread misinformation today try to appeal to the heart. How can you protect yourself? Now, I think the main goal of this whole charade is to get people to mistrust people like me. You know, you see someone online that's talking about the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I think they want there to be an immediate mistrust that I have this agenda, or I'm trying to appeal to the heart. Sometimes I try to appeal to people's humanity, of course. Sometimes I try to appeal to people's emotions, but that is not the entirety of it. Just because someone does make an emotional appeal, that doesn't automatically discount what they're trying to present. The facts are stubborn things. They don't usually have versions. Sometimes there's updates because new knowledge is required. Wow. Knowledge that God's required of us. I'm pretty sure that just seeped into my head. I should go take a shower. Isn't that the brochure that had like 2 different covers because one of the guys with the mustache got disfellowshipped? Or was that just some like millennial JW lore that has seeped into my consciousness? Who really knows what I'm even talking about here? Let's get back to the point. Why is misinformation dangerous? I think that anyone with a frontal lobe could work that out for themselves. What is deepfake technology, and why do we need to be aware of it? I think this is going to be Watchtower's low-hanging fruit that they're going to go to. Oh, that's AI. I think they're just going to try and say, you can't trust it. That's just deep fake. That's just a bunch of AI slop. Why would you listen to that? And true, there is a lot of exjw AI slop out there. Just actual nonsense. People just creating stories out of thin air. People, using fake voices and fake images, trying to make it look like, oh, I used to be in Bethel and this is what I saw, when it's just a bunch of gobbledygook. That is true. But that doesn't mean that all of it is deep fake technology. It's not like I am a real dude, sitting here in the absurdly warm room because it's hot out and I don't want the air conditioner running and there's all these freaking lights here. I'm just some sweaty guy. Right? This isn't a deep fake. This isn't phony baloney. This is real. So I can see Watchtower trying to make it seem like, oh, Well, let's point to a couple of examples where there was deep fakes, where there was AI slop that did misrepresent what the Jehovah's Witnesses actually believe. And I think they could point to that and say, look, that's the thing we warned you about. And they can all pat themselves on the back. But that is just being so lazy, because you can't take a exception and make it a rule, and you can't take a specific and make it a general, just like you can't take a general and make it a specific. You have to actually, use your brain and do a little bit of hard work. I know it's difficult out here in the Big 26, but sorry, I'm not your dad. I can't tell you what to do. You got to figure it out for yourself. How can we put information to the test? I would love to be a fly on the wall and just listen to the comments come in. Maybe I'll try and see if there's one. I know there's some. Yeah, maybe I'll actually see about that. Well, maybe Editing Wally will come in here. I don't have time to edit this video right away, but maybe Editing Wally will come in and be a fly on the wall, because there might be a way to see what Jehovah's Witness, or how Jehovah's Witnesses actually answered that question.
Why is misinformation dangerous? What is deepfake technology, and why do we need to be aware of it? And how can we put information to the test? Enjoy the video. Why is misinformation dangerous?
Sometimes it could come completely unexpected. I think back to in Bible times, sometimes the king would have a cupbearer his whole job was to be in charge of tasting the drinks and making sure nothing was poisoned. And that was a really high-ranking, important job. And if the king didn't have that set up, almost every single time he probably would have been totally fine. But all it takes is just that one drink, and then it's over. So just like that, we want to make sure that anything that seems fishy, we make sure that it's completely real, because all it takes is one misinformation, one false thing, and it can lead us in the wrong direction.
Yeah, excellent. I think that leads us nicely into our next question. What is deepfake technology, and why do we need to be aware of it?
It's when they take someone's face and voice and they make it sound like them, but really it's an impersonator, and it's even trickier to decipher with AI now. So it may look like the truth, and not a certain person is saying it, but it really is a lie.
Yeah, very good.
Deepfakes are easier to create now than ever, and it's so easy for people to be misled by these. Even if it's something that might not be created with malicious intentions, if it is not real and is not accurate, then it's still dangerous misinformation. So it's important to not only be critical of things we might see on the internet or be shown that might not seem like they might be accurate, but also to avoid spreading it.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. Our third question, how can we put information to the test?
I like this test. Is it that important in the first place?
Yeah, it was a great point in the video. Have you heard a rumor about our organization in the past or recently? What's the best way we can find out what the truth is? Where can we go? Where can we look?
Or online, or jw.org itself might be two good search engines that we could use, and if we're having trouble finding it, we might refer to a mature Christian that could help us locate it.
There's one place particularly that we might go, the newsroom on jw.org, where we have up-to-date information on all sorts of things that are happening all over the world. So,
and then finally ask yourself, do I tend to trust only information that confirms what I want to believe, or do I keep my biases in check? That is the absolute most hysterical thing. A Jehovah's Witness saying, hey, I need to take a step back and make sure my bias is in check. Mother sucker, you are the most biased individuals I've ever seen in my life. Internet news and social media feeds are often customized to our interest and browsing history, so you may need to dig deeper to find reliable information. This will be fascinating how it ages with the JW Press Room on Instagram and TikTok, now that they're showing Jehovah's Witnesses, or they're showing the algorithm that, oh, well, I'm a Jehovah's Witness and I'm following this Jehovah's Witness account. It's going to tell the algorithm, oh, you're interested in the Jehovah's Witness. It says, let me present other stuff about that. And it's going to lead them to places that Watchtower doesn't want them to go. So Again, I don't think that the JW social media thing will be around for a while, but I could be completely wrong. Maybe it's the wave of the future and it's a huge smashing success and I'm the idiot and I was wrong all along. Anyway, that's about all I have to say for this one. So with all of that, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to spend more time loving the things you love than hating the things you hate. Now go out there and have a good ass day.